Hi, I'm Charlotte Merrill, and this is our So Let's Be Friends podcast. This is a place where everyone belongs, and every story matters. Together, we celebrate our differences, bring awareness to disabilities, and build a more inclusive and supportive world. One conversation at a time, let's open our hearts and listen with kindness.
I like when people ask me about my crutches because they can get to know me, and I like having friends, so let's be friends.
This life is beautiful, and you are wonderful.
Welcome back to So Let's Be Friends. I'm Charlotte, and today's episode is really close to my heart. I'm sitting down with some incredible moms and women who knew what it means to love, advocate, and never give up. Today we'll talk about the joys and challenges and everyday miracles of being a caregiver and how we can create more inclusion in our communities.
So I'm Anna, her mom. I'm the one that is her backup. Awesome. So go ahead and start with Lynette here and ask her the first question.
Can each of you on this panel introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your childhood or a loved one?
I'm Lynette Nicoll. I have several special needs children. One of them, who's the most severe, is my son, and he was the one that pushed us into helping get the other children diagnosed.
So my name is Nancy Ruffell, and I have two special needs children. My second set of kids, and they both are amazing people, but they started off fine at very young, but by the time they were moving into 1 and 2 years old, we started to see delays and realized that there were both physical as well as other elements to those delays.
My name is Leah Clarke, and I have 3 kids. I have a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And I feel like with my 12-year-old, that one has been the hardest, just to navigate what to do just to help her be successful. But I love them all. They're amazing, and we've got this.
We've got this. I love that.
Yes, we got this.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is one word you like to use to describe your journey as a mom or a caregiver?
I would choose the word journey, and just because that's what it is. You don't know what you're up against. You don't know what's in the future, and you just have to ride with it.
I think one of the words that I really like to use is let it flow. So that's a phrase, I understand. But flexibility, or just let it flow, because you make a plan and that plan's not going to work out the way you think it's going to. And so you just have to be willing to go with it.
I would say trek, because it's uphill, it's downhill, it's around, it's a stop, and you have to go back. And there are so many twists and turns to it that you learn a lot, but not always is it the easiest.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I agree with all of that. All right. When you look back, what was one of your most surprising or joyful moments?
When my son was actually able to serve a mission for the church, it was a big deal for us, because he was able to articulate and live on his own for a little while, and then he was able to reach out to people, and there were several that he was able to talk to that had similar problems, who he was the only one who was able to relate to them. So that was amazing.
It is amazing. I think one of the most joyful things is to see your children be successful in ways that are quote end quote normal. So when my oldest of the two girls got a job, a full-time job, basically, that has been a really wonderful moment as the younger one is negotiating some of those kinds of things. And they both actually are college students as well, and to see them be successful is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, you just want them to grow up and be successful. Mine is, and I know we all have different backgrounds with our children, but for my 19-year-old, whenever he was finally in probably 9th grade, I stopped getting phone calls from the principal and teachers and staff. And those phone calls would always end in tears for me because it was him just not being what they pictured fitting into a box, what I would say. So I don't know. I think that was just like a relief off my shoulders to know that he's going to be okay and I don't have to worry about him anymore.
Do you mind if I share something that came up? Sorry. I actually got to experience seeing my daughter Caroline with cerebral palsy in choir this week, in the high school choir. And yes, Charlotte has been in the mixed choirs, and I felt like they always kind of hit her a little bit in the choir, and that was hard for Charlotte because she recognized that. But to have Caroline front and center in robes singing in the honor choir, that was the first time I got to feel that my kids were doing something normal, and they earned it and they worked hard for it. So that feeling this week, and I got to share that with my sister today, and I was asking her, is it weird that I'm so excited about this? Just being in the choir, and that she hit a soprano and she hit her note, and just to get to feel that feeling of not just her not falling that day, or, you know, just, those are my usual triumphs, but to get to triumph her being in the honor choir and sing with everybody else was such a special moment for us. So very cool. So thank you for reminding me of that.
How did you first learn to advocate for your child in school or the community?
That's a bit of a rough one. I was told when Josh was 3 that he probably would not progress past a 6-year-old level, that he wouldn't do well in school. So I had to fight back from a doctor telling me this. And when he got to school, I had to have them change things to video for him, and because he could learn from video, but audio just didn't always catch things for him. So I had to be very specific with his goals and his plans and things. And it wasn't that people were angry or mean to him, they just didn't know how to help him.
Yeah, that doesn't change, sadly.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why aren't they doing well? We're doing all these accommodations because those accommodations don't work for every child.
Exactly.
Sometimes those aren't helpful.
Right.
They're even worse sometimes.
Anybody else want to share anything with that?
I think that working with doctors, therapists, and teachers, they guide you in a sense, but I feel like the most help and what I've learned most is from moms and friends and people on the outside of it because they've lived it versus what the book says.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and I think that some of the best places you can learn from other people is the waiting rooms.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're sitting in a waiting room with your child for an appointment, and someone says, "Hey, have you tried?"
Right.
Or,
right.
"Does your child do?" And yeah, it can be a big help just talking.
What have you learned from working with doctors, therapists, or teachers?
So since I am the person in the room who is a teacher, it's kind of an interesting question. But what's really interesting for me is specifically with the older one of the two, I took her to see a specialist, and his comment was, well, we don't really know. We can't really classify this, but what you are doing right now is right. You are doing everything right. She is a loving human being. She tries really hard. She's willing to put in the effort. What you're doing is going to be best for her. even if we can't give you a label, if we can't tell you, what genetic thing it is, you are doing the right thing. So that was super helpful to know that I was pushing her, but not overwhelming her, and that there wasn't anything that he could have done differently. So that was very, just validating to feel like I was doing my best to help, and to have the therapists be people like that. And again, people in my own profession where there have been moments where I'm like, you aren't doing what I've asked you to do. And if you're not going to do what I ask you to do, then we're going to have to make some changes. So I've never been afraid to stand up and say, that's not the right thing. And that's part of my personality. I'm just kind of a pushy human being. So it was really important to me to say, this isn't helping. And I understand that you think you're helping, but it's not helping. So that's what I've learned, that I'm doing the right things.
What moments of inclusion have meant the most to your family?
I think finding our community we have here are the most, they just mean the most to me because everyone is equal in it. Like, we don't look at someone next to us and think they're any less than us. We're all we're here and we're friends, and I don't know, we're just perfect.
There you go.
Are you talking about the unified community?
We're part of just a unified community here that we found whenever my son was probably 5th grade. And it's funny because he, like, I don't know, weeded out of it, but we really found our niche with my youngest. And she feels like she's capable and can do anything. Whereas, like in the outside, I don't know, like sports with school and stuff, she's not going to fit in. But here, she does, and she can play. And we celebrate even not making a basket. We celebrate her trying to make the basket.
And she's talking about Special Olympics Unified, and that's something we've talked about on this program before.
Okay.
So if somebody has a Special Olympics Unified program in their area, then they can look into that, because it's exactly what she's talking about. Is we celebrate every win. And if somebody falls, we're celebrating them getting up.
Yep.
So
it's the little things that we celebrate because they're huge to us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you balance being a caregiver and also taking care of yourself?
Well, I breathe really good. Sometimes you just have to take a breather. I'll put myself in timeout.
And there.
Mom's going to take a few minutes here. Prayer is big, but also turning to the people who understand and know what you're going through, and being able just to unburden sometimes is very important to me.
I think that's really important to be able to take those moments, because it can be very wearing. And just because we have special needs children doesn't mean we don't have other things that we have to take care of. Full-time jobs, caring for another parent. Some of us live definitely in that age group where we have children, but we also have older parents. And so I think both of those. And so being able to breathe, have a conversation with somebody that feels or lives your life, those experiences are very helpful.
Honey, can I?
Yes, absolutely.
They keep talking about breathing, and that's something I had to learn, because I didn't realize how many times I was holding my breath trying to get through something hard.
Yeah.
And it took another friend, another mother, who would say breathe. And so for those who are trying to understand what that means, is catch yourself when you're holding your breath. And something else I was given advice to do one time is find that same time every day, so it's consistent, where you actually stop and take those breaths. And hold your breath in for 5 seconds to take a deep breath in. Hold it at the top, is what they say, for another 5 seconds, and then let it out slowly for 5 seconds. And if you can do little intervals of that, that helps get oxygen to your brain and helps your body to slow down, and actually helps a lot. And so my times that I do it is usually once or twice a day, but it's every time I get into the car and I get to the steering wheel, I have a little sticky note in there that says breathe. That reminds me to stop and do that before I drive, and even while I'm driving sometimes. But the other time is, when you have a little fun little thing like my clock says 11:11, I know to stop, take a breath, and say a prayer. And just those little moments have helped me as a mother to get present quickly in the moment and just to be okay and breathe. So I just kind of wanted to explain what that means. Every time they say breathe, it's really important, and stop and take those breaths. So
Yeah. Or else you will drive yourself crazy.
yes.
Insane. Let's see.
Yes,
What are some
It's a big word, misconceptions.
misconceptions about being a special needs parent you love others to understand?
So this is a question that I kind of thought about a little bit because I think it's a hard question, really.
It is.
People don't really get it because some children clearly you can see that there's some kind of a disability or something else. And then there's other children who absolutely do not look like there's anything going on other than, whatever normal might be. And so I think the biggest misconception for people is that it's clear that even we know what the heavens we're doing, because frequently we don't know what we're doing either, and we're just trying to get through and figure out what this day is going to be like and how do I help this particular day. Trying to negotiate all of the paperwork and just the living, plus trying to make sure that everybody's fed, and that can be a huge struggle. Like, I'm lucky in that my children don't have some of those problems, but I know plenty of people who do, whose children can't eat or can't stomach particular kinds of foods, or just have a palate that says the only thing I'm going to eat is oatmeal, boiled chicken, and that's it. Like, that's the only thing they can handle. Which would make my life so sad because I don't eat oatmeal, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But it's just one of those kinds of issues that you're like, well, it doesn't even look the same. Nobody's life is the same, whether we all have special needs kids or not. Even if we had diagnoses that were exactly the same, it's still not the same. So that, I think, is one of the biggest misconceptions, that we're all living the same life, and we are not.
We have to make the decision between a G-tube or not.
Right.
And
For some,
complications come
absolutely.
with both of those. And
Yep.
I've been at doctor's appointments for the last 2 days. I just got back from Phoenix Children's again and Banner, and having all the doctors and specialists look at my son, trying to figure out why he went nonverbal again, what we're doing with the swallowing, what we're doing with all the different things, and exactly what you talked about, because I had to make that decision a while ago, whether I was put my kids on a G-tube or not, because they choked on food all the time.
Right.
And is that helping that I did that? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and they're looking at surgeries, trying to see how we can open up him vocally again and figure out what's going on. So, yeah, there's a lot of those decisions, and I didn't know 2 days ago I was going to be making those decisions.
Right. You had no
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And so now we have to keep adjusting or flowing, like you said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Charlotte, do you want to share on the misconceptions? That's a tough word. I was trying to think of another word to put there with her.
Don't know what it means.
Misconceptions means, so like one of the things I think that Charlotte, and she can add to this, but when she comes home from school or anywhere, she gets so excited when she'll tell me that somebody didn't treat her like a puppy.
Oh,
If that makes sense.
didn't pat her on the head today.
Didn't pat her on the head or
Yeah.
tell her how cute she is. Being 21 years old, a lot of times, and I know my sister-in-law experienced it the moment she borrowed Charlotte's wheelchair because she wanted to go shopping with us, and she just had surgery, like a week ago. She's like, it's a different world in a wheelchair. Like, people won't come up and talk to you like you're a baby, or that you're so cute, and she's like, is this what your kids go through all the time? And I think that's a huge misconception. Charlotte, you can share on that if you want, but she loves when people are just a friend to her and not thinking she's just this cute little special needs girl, right? Do you want to share anything on that? That's what the word misconception means. People think that you want to be talked to like you're cute, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? But she said one day she came home from school and somebody just opened the door for her and then walked with her to class. And she was just so excited that they were a friend, and didn't just open the door just to be nice because she was special needs with crutches. They carried on the friendship and walked to class with her after.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so important to her. And that was just kind of when I started to understand the misconceptions of people thinking they're being nice, and they are, because it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But they want to be treated, with respect and
Yeah.
dignity like the others.
Yeah. And I have one. Like, I like that I carry on like a friendship from high school. And I met like a girl that is like a grade, like 2 grades or one above me.
So when she was a freshman, she's trying to talk about when she was a freshman in school, a friend reached out to her, noticing she needed help.
First, it started
she was a senior
as a link group, but now years later, after us two are out of school, it's like
you're still friends,
playing buds, like friends.
They're still friends, and that she appreciates that, huh?
Yeah.
We all need friends.
We do. I made a lot of friends during high school, but I know after high school, like, turned different directions, and I was grateful that we both kept our friendships together.
That's important, isn't it? Through all of this, and the moms get to be friends too.
Yeah.
Help each other, and I think that's so important.
Yeah. How do you celebrate milestones, big or small?
I think we celebrate them all the same way. So like my youngest remembering a 2-step plan I told her to do, like go brush your teeth and brush your hair. And she did them both without me telling her. I celebrate it because that's huge that she remembered it, because half the time she doesn't remember the first step. Versus like something bigger, I do celebrate it the same because it's still a huge accomplishment, her just being able to do it.
Okay. What advice do you give a mom who's just starting this journey?
Well, depending on what's going on with the child and what the diagnoses are, get a hold of any Facebook groups or any unified things that you can get a hold of so that you can start having some support. I would say support is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because you need to know that you're not the only one in a boat on the ocean by yourself. And even if, married, not married, it's still hard. And knowing how to do things, the steps of getting them help or support or braces or surgeries, you need someone to be there. And if there is a social worker that can help you work through that can help too. But I think the moms are the biggest help for me.
I know I was never very good about this. I've been a pretty, I can do it on my own kind of person. And so do reach out to a group. In fact, we got involved with the unified group more because my child is very much of a loving, wants to be with other people person, much more than myself. Sometimes I just am peopled out. And so she helped me be better about that. So let your child also help you move along in the journey, because they often know what they need. They might not be able to get it. They might not know how to get it, but they know what they need. And so I think really let the child, whatever it is, help you to understand what they need. Listen to your child, because they are really good about understanding what they need.
For that, I think community is big. That's the number one thing I've learned. I probably said this already, but I've learned the most just from the moms in here on how to advocate for your child, because sometimes you feel so alone up against like these people who you feel like are so much smarter than you. But your friends are the ones that help you learn how to push through it and what to say, what to do, and where to go.
There was a time that I had to take my child to the doctor, and I told my husband, you were taking the day off, you were going with me. And he said, why? I said, because the doctor will not talk to me. He will talk to you, but he won't talk to me. And he says, well, that's kind of dumb. I don't know any of the, you're the medical one. Yeah. And he after the appointment, he said, "You're right. He didn't look at you once." I said, "That's okay. I got all the information I needed, but he would only talk to you." So
the time when you need a new doctor.
yeah, well, they did trade him out rather quickly.
I really wanted to say off with what Nancy said, because for the longest time, because I have children one after the other, like some of us born with special needs. And in the middle of all that, we forget about our typical kid or our normal kid. Right. And I think that's really important. And I was like Nancy, I got this. I'm the mom. I want to do it by myself. And I didn't have a ton of support anyway. And so I think that just drove it into me even more that I was going to do it by myself. And my husband was a teacher. They don't get to take a whole lot of time off. And so he didn't get to go with me to, down to the valley to, the 3 hours to drive to doctor's appointments and take kids. And I kept, and people there are things available if you're, you can find different support things like they were talking about. And I had one support coordinator offer respite. And I feel like this is really vulnerable for me to share because I am the mom that wants to do it by myself. And I got this type thing. And she kept for years. It wasn't just months, it was years where she said, you might want to see about getting a respite provider to help you do the doctor's appointments. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with Harrison. That's how long it took. But I just remember walking. I had to park far away because there was no parking at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And I had to park far away and it was hot, down in Arizona in the heat. And I remember I was pregnant with Harrison and I was holding Charlotte in one arm because they were trying to walk with their gait trainers, which are little walkers. Caroline was in a gait trainer and Charlotte was in a gait trainer walking behind this busy road trying to get to the hospital. And I finally had to pick them up because it was just hot and they were moving slowly. And I had Charlotte in one arm, Caroline in the other, a gait trainer in each hand holding it. So I was like this wide load trying to carry handicap equipment and I was pregnant. And my poor Kalisha was running behind me trying to keep up. And she was just this little girl. And that's when I was just walking down the road and my one daughter who needed a handheld, I couldn't hold her hand. And I was really worried about her back there, just ain't calling her name to keep up with me along this busy road. And I see this person walking towards me. And I was so excited and so grateful. And I thought they were going to help me. And it was, I hate saying, a homeless person asking me for help. And I just burst into tears and just had to stop and realized I need some help. And that's when I finally got home and called a support coordinator and said, yes, I could use a respite provider. And so I just wanted to kind of make it clear we don't have to be tough and do it by ourselves because sometimes others will suffer around us or other children that need to be loved and remembered because the others do take a lot more attention. And I hope that's okay to say.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
And so that was a moment when I finally realized I needed help. And I did that and had to humble myself and ask for help a little bit so my other kid wouldn't suffer. And so that was a huge eye-opener for me, a very vulnerable moment. And I try to use that in other moments. And I don't get respite providers all the time, but when I need that extra help and extra hand, I think it's really important to reach out and find who's available to help you. And if you don't know what that means, reach to one of your moms, a friend, a support that can help you get that set up. Or reach out to us and I can help you as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that because the respite was really big with my Joshua. His therapist or his respite would take him to basketball games. They take him to football games. They take him out for ice cream. He was getting all of this great I'm a normal kid stuff while I'm back at home trying to get dinner going, take care of this, where's the homework, how's this, back and forth. So it was able to take a little bit of a load off of my brain so that he could have some fun. And he came home with a jersey and popcorn, and I'm like, where did that come from? But yeah.
What keeps you grounded during hard times?
So one thing that keeps me grounded is, and this has been true, is my faith personally. I definitely have a routine, and if my routine gets too messed up, it is a little bit of a struggle, but I do it so early in the morning that it's rarely a problem. So I get up at 5 a.m. and I read. I do scripture reading, I do some meditation, and then I read I read stuff that I don't have to grade, which is helpful. And but it really keeps me grounded because I have a little routine. It is a little struggly if my routine gets too messed up, but I've been doing it long enough that it's so helpful. But reaching out in my own personal faith and having that routine is helpful because number one, nobody bothers you at 5 a.m. just saying, and or at 11:30. It's pretty rare. So those are times when, luckily for me, because I don't have to sleep that much, it's been helpful, so that I can keep that. So that's for me personally. I just have those moments of doing things, and that's how I've kept my sanity through the ups and downs of life.
What's one thing your child has taught you about life?
This goes for my youngest. She's just happy. She's comfortable. She's confident. Even at her weakest moments, she's just happy, go with the flow. And I think sometimes we just have to go back to that childlike living and just live life, leave all the hard things behind you and just like be in the moment.
Josh loved everybody.
Mm.
He would just wake up in the morning and just loved everybody. And he's had a harder time lately as an adult because he's had an injury, but he has just dropped in our lap was a dog that we're going to be training him to be a stabilizer for him. And that has just brought back the spark of joy for him too. And watching him, how he just keeps trying to overcome everything with a balance has helped me a lot.
How has your faith community or perspective changed over time?
Well, I think our community's gotten bigger, and because of that, there's a bit more resources. There's a little more understanding of things. I do think that the teachers and other social workers and things like that understand more of the special needs than they used to, especially when I jumped into it 30 years ago. So that does help. You don't have to explain yourself 1,200 times. And I just have been given such a testimony that God knows each one of us. And the trials that my son is facing are not the same ones that other people are facing. And it's custom fit for him. I can see how it's helping him grow and progress, even on the sad or down days.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of already hit the, faith was important to help myself get through the things, because while you have children with special needs, you also probably have other stuff going on. At least for me, and I've had one marriage that didn't continue. There, the parent of my two special needs daughters couldn't deal with what was happening and what the reality of that life was. But you find other people that are there to help you to get through those things. And so part of the perspective for me, again, and Anna's pretty much said this as well, is we really have to help one another, but we also have to reach out a little bit and be aware that we don't have to be the island in the stream by ourselves kind of thing. Or, I happen to really like the No Man is an Island little essay, but there's those kinds of things that just doesn't work very well. So that's what I've gained.
What does inclusion mean to you?
So one of the things with inclusion isn't that everybody has to be the same, but everybody needs to just accept how others are and let them be who they are. There are some moments where, you get a little bit maybe less accepting today, but I can be better tomorrow. So you just let it recognize that not everybody, gets it. And we kindly, as much as we can, manage to be kind about, hey, that doesn't really work for me, or that's not how I see it. So that's something I think inclusion is important, is just to recognize the differences.
I think inclusion for me, it just means everyone. We're all welcome. We're all here. I don't know. We're just all in it together. So just be kind to one another.
I mentioned that Joshua just had an injury, and he was out of work for a week. But when he got back, they are rallying around him, and got him a chair so that he can actually keep washing dishes but kind of lean back if he needs to. Another lady brought him a brace for his knee because I didn't know the size, but she did. She's a PT, and she just brought it for him. She says, here, you need this. And they have helped him. They're pushing him in the wheelchair if he has to go longer distances, and it's nice to see that they're not treating him badly or differently just because he's who he is. And that's helped him a lot. He's like, I love my job. I love my everybody's great, and they've helped him a lot, and I appreciate that.
Just watching our Special Olympics Unified team, I love the inclusion when we're all in the water together trying to swim a race. And it's nice when somebody else recognizes somebody starting to get left out because they're afraid of the water, can't get in the water. We have an older gentleman who wanted to swim and be a part, and he has cerebral palsy. And he was trying to get down the ladder into the water, and then somebody recognized he needed help. So 2 men went and helped him get in the water. And I just thought that was really neat to see that. And then someone else ran and got a life jacket. And so to see that inclusiveness where I didn't have to say anything, and I just got to watch it all unfold, watching other people rally around and create that inclusiveness so everybody can be a part, kind of like what she just mentioned. They jumped in and pushed him in the wheelchair. So if you just kind of can just be a friend and just see what needs to be done to make sure they get to be a part of things and make them feel like a friend and not like they're a chore or a job. I think that's super important, and that's where that, and it does take a little bit of practice if you don't understand it or haven't done it before, and sometimes just asking them what they would like and see what they need. So so I'll give it back to Charlotte.
Inclusion starts with love, and no one teaches love better than a mom. Thank you for sharing your heart and stories. And inclusion begin at home. We can learn from each other. Grateful for the way you help the world understand what true belonging looks like. So let's be friends. If you're listening, thank you for being a part of this. We are excited to share more stories and more truth and more love in every episode. Until next time, love one another, and like I say, so let's be